Here's to you, dear listeners, and welcome back to another episode of Metal Gear Monday's Revengeance, where you'll find your favorite conversations around Metal Gear and Kojima-related content delivered to you to tactical podcast action. I'm your host, Warren Minix, and with me, as always, is Bravo team leader, Chris Hampton. How we doing?
I'm here. I'm in.
I'm in. Let's make it a trio. Delta team leader, Tori Cortez. What's up?
I had a really rough truck ride over here, so just gonna have to do my best, I guess.
A truck, you say? I've never seen a truck in my life. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's like a big cargo truck. It was really bumpy ride, but I think I'll be okay.
What does a truck sound like? I don't know what a truck would sound like.
Note to the editor: this would be a really good time to insert an audio clip. Thank you for that tee up, Chris.
That's all that's for. We're gonna do that like 10 times an episode, I feel like now.
Yeah.
So this is cool because this is Metal Gear Monday's Revengeance Portable Ops Edition.
Season 2.
So we have, Season 2. So we have moved on.
You know, I thought we would burn this shit to the ground last season, and we didn't. We're here. In spite of ourselves, we're here.
I thought I would have murdered my mentor in cold blood in the middle of a white flower bed while her horse lay alone, and I jump on a plane.
Yeah, I murdered Alessio and made 2 clones of him, and now they are hosting the show.
Oh, wow. This went in all sorts of directions.
So are which one's the Ka and which one's the Ha? Damn it. We always get it back to Death Stranding.
You gotta wait. You gotta wait till season 3 for that one, buddy. I'm not gonna show you my cards just yet.
Oh man. Oh boy, we are ripe. We are ripe for season 2, guys. It's obvious we haven't recorded a season ep in some time.
Yeah, it's nice to be back at the mic with you fellas.
Yeah, it was good to be on vacation though, I gotta say. So it's nice to be back, but I'm glad that I was away.
Yeah, a little bit of recoup. There's nothing wrong with a little recoup.
You know what? I'm glad you were too.
I need any more
Tori.
Chris in my life, you know.
No, because you needed what is it? Distance makes the heart grow fonder. So
right.
Oh yeah. That's true. I like that. I guess we can kind of just do what we want for now because we're, baby stepping it into the season.
Mm-hmm.
I guess, Tori, let's do our random patron shout out.
Yes, let's.
Just so we can get that rolling.
All right, patrons, are you ready? Are you all on the edge of your seats? This week's...
I know I am.
Good. Oh, man. Me too. Because I get to announce that this week's patron of the week is none other than CJ Garcia.
Hey! I've seen CJ in the Discord. I can see him in my mind's eye with his Ape Escape Discord profile icon.
Hey.
Oh, yeah. He doesn't chime in a ton. There's some real ones out there, but when CJ drops in, it's very noticeable.
The Discord's been just unruly lately. We've got to put our foot down about it, I think.
I feel like I'm adding to it, so I don't know if I'm going to put my foot down.
Yeah?
Yeah, of course I am. I've been chiming in all over the place, man. I really have been, though. Between the movie club, the game club, because I keep throwing shade at the game club, because it's Star Wars Bounty Hunter.
God, I hate that game so much. Hate it.
Save it for the Discord talk, Chris.
By the time this releases, we would have had our chat about Star Wars Bounty Hunter. Mm-hmm. But I'll tell you right now, with the weeks I've had of Bounty Hunter.
Yeah,
I'm good.
I'll tell you the only take that you need for that game. Okay? That game came out on the PlayStation 2. What year did it come out?
I think 2002.
Okay. So 2002. Nah, that's not right. Because it would have been after 2005. I'm fact checking you right now, Warren.
Oh, please do.
Oh, you're
I'm not
right. It is 2002. Holy
Oh,
shit.
no.
How old am I? Oh my god.
Anyway,
Got
CJ,
you.
thank you so much for your
thanks, CJ.
patronage.
Okay. All right.
Patron of the week club.
So 2002. This piece of shit game comes out, and then
Jesus, hot takes from Chris.
And then in 2000,
Throwing him over here.
Like I thought, oh, this is going to be great because like the only cool thing about it was the jetpack in the game. Everything else, it was like tank controls and like really bad and choppy. And yeah, I just remember like the first level having to like fly through all these like pipes and shit, and it was worse than that N64 game, Shadows of
the Empire.
Yeah, that game
with
was
Dash Rendar.
Yeah, that game had really bad controls too.
It did.
Not 3 years later, Battlefront 2 comes out and has that Mos Eisley Cantina mode where you play as the heroes. Pick Django or Boba, and you got better controls immediately. I don't know how. They had like a side mode of a game that had better gameplay than a whole Star Wars property game. So, like, fuck that bounty hunter game.
Chris is ripe.
And you'll
today,
hear
ladies and
more
gentlemen.
like that when you give us money and join the Discord to hear about the game of the month.
Pay us
Yeah, my
money to
goodness.
hear an old man rant about some shit.
It's fantastic. Yeah, for $1 a month, y'all, you can hop into the Discord and chime in with all the stuff we're talking about. And we are doing, so yeah, we are months into the game club. We're doing movie club, and we will be releasing episodes for the movie club if you are a patron. I think I'm ready to do some story discussion and some analysis for Metal Gear Solid Portable Ops. How you guys feel about it?
Yes.
I feel ready. Feel pretty
I feel ready too.
Yeah.
To the day when everything is gone. Carry this soul.
So here's what I'll say. I think I get the feeling there's going to be a lot of baggage that we'll probably get out of the way in this episode. So we're obviously going to continue talking about sort of evolution in the gameplay, just like we did in Metal Gear Solid 3, but this is a very jarring change. This is like the first Metal Gear game that actually, I don't want to say regressed, but it regressed because of the hardware. It was on a portable system. So we've literally improved sometimes to arguably the maximum potential of a system, like in like a Metal Gear Solid 2, and so maybe in some people's opinions, Metal Gear Solid 1, to then we go from 3, arguably people's favorite, to this game. So expectations are a little probably unrealistic. So I feel like we're going to shake off some of that as we keep going through our episodes, but I definitely have some stuff to say.
Yeah. So I'm taking issue with your term regress, Warren, because, okay, I think from a hardware perspective, the PS2 and the PSP, it's not really arguable like which was better, you know, as far as like output, but the whole way you would make a game for a portable system, the philosophy at the time was very different. Like the approach was, it has to be bite-sized, it needs to be small, it needs to be a pocket-sized game, you know, not something like you sit and commit to or whatever. And I think now we probably feel differently because the Switch has changed things, but this is like the challenge of how do you distill the experience of Metal Gear into something that you can play in like a minute by minute burst of time.
Sure. And that's why regress had air quotes in it, because I didn't really know a better way to say it, but it certainly didn't grow the gameplay. which
Yeah.
is like the bread and butter of Metal Gear Solid.
Yeah.
Especially since they were like almost simultaneously working on Metal Gear Solid 4. So I could see how people were a little, but it got great reviews. I can't really knock it for that. People understood what it was for the time. And it was, for 2007? I had to like remember where I was at that point because by the time this came out, I was out of college.
Yeah.
And I was like, damn, I do not remember that. Like I have distinct memories of playing this in college, and that is not correct.
This game came out my first semester of college, and I was home on Christmas break. I borrowed a friend's PSP to play this game, and I played like 5 minutes of it and never touched it again. I didn't like it that much.
All right. Well, we'll see if that changes.
That lines up with where you started, I think, this time around.
My opinion of it was very poor. Like, I had a lot of negative things to say about it in 2007. And now I have a different opinion on it. Not so different. Like, I kind of pity it in a way. I don't know. That sounds like I'm a condescending prick, but like, pity this game.
Well, I think I understand what you mean because there is such a connotation that comes with this game.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that it's easy to fall in line with that connotation. But once I devoted a certain amount of, let me say this. Once I reached a certain milestone in the game, I'll say, my opinion of it changed rapidly. I gotta cap this off with, I played the same part of this game, like the first half of this game. Was it 3 or 4 times? It was too many times.
Yeah, it was at least 3 that I knew of.
Yeah,
so
due to
may
some
have been more than that.
technical difficulties that I'm still not fully in comprehension of. But yeah, so
Your PSP wasn't working well?
yes, that was it precisely. So, I don't know. Another thing I might mention is I was in high school when this came out. Would have been either my freshman or sophomore year. And
I feel old as shit right now.
Yeah,
Just
there
wanna
you
make
go.
Sure everybody's comfortable
I
with
just
that.
I needed to bring that element into this, Warren, just for fun.
Oh, yeah. I'm literally dyeing my hair as we talk about this.
But yeah, at the time, I really had no interest in what I deemed side games for the series. This didn't feel like, well, you know, and I have
game status.
I have been schooled. I will be the first to admit I have been schooled. But at the time, my perception of the game was it wasn't worth giving time to because it didn't have the same cutscene style. It didn't have the same meat to it, if that makes any sense to you guys.
Yeah.
But, you know, I hadn't played it, so what the fuck did I know?
Right. Yeah. Armchair critics. Just not even playing it and be like, this game sucks.
Oops.
I'm not going to buy a PSP. I hated the PSP so much. And now I realized I didn't hate Portable Ops. I hated the PlayStation Portable.
Gotcha. That's kind of a hot take now, going back.
Still hate it. Yeah.
I hated the control, like the controls of it. Like just it didn't feel good in my hand when it came to it.
Joystick. Just get rid of it.
Yeah. And I mean, they obviously improved, you know, since then with the Vita and all that, but
The Vita
you're right, it just didn't.
The Vita should have
weird.
been the PlayStation Portable. They should have not even just bothered with that trash. If little
know, man.
plastic thing.
The fact
too.
that it could play PS2 games portably, though, was, I think, all that mattered at the time.
It
you know,
felt like a plastic straw. when I
What's
was
the
holding it.
difference?
plastic straw.
There's no heft to it. There's no weight. It didn't feel like
There is no weight, though. You're definitely right about that.
Yeah.
Okay, so other than its heftiness, what's the difference between the PSP and the Vita?
2 joysticks, a touchpad on the back screen,
Yeah.
L and snappier L and R triggers.
Yes.
Yeah, and also
It felt a lot more like a PlayStation, a little bit bigger, but a PlayStation controller in your hands.
yeah,
Like
Okay.
it wasn't its own thing. Like the PlayStation Portable really just felt like
PlayStation
new
Portable used
piece of equipment.
discs. They used discs. A portable
Did it really?
system that used fucking like UMD. I had
UMD discs.
I didn't use that stuff like since like zip drives in grade school. You know?
Did you have an iOmega zip drive?
I thought that like that technology died, but no. Apparently, Sony brought it back for a portable system. But the Vita used SD card or like a proprietary SD card for the games, and that is much better. Like,
Right, and they only discontinued them. What? Well, I can't say last year because it's officially 2021. They only got discontinued in 2019.
Yeah,
The
Wow.
Vitas, so they stuck around for a while.
Vita's got a hardcore fan base, and it's well deserved. But the PSP was just like a bad. That's why Sony doesn't make handhelds anymore.
Yeah,
PSP
because they just kept getting beat out. I mean, that Nintendo definitely sort of set the gold standard for that for so many iterations of it.
Now they've
And I gotta say,
perfected it.
Chris, I want to agree with you slightly when you say the design around a game for a portable system. This is my like smooth as silk segue in.
Ooh.
Oh yeah.
Because we're gonna open on this game now, and the big thing that we're already used to is there's a pretty, for a portable system, there's a pretty long opening cutscene. Obviously, a fraction of what we're used to in a Metal Gear game, but still pretty long. I mean, I didn't really clock the seconds, but it felt like it was at least like 20 full minutes of, really dope, like anime style, just really cool artwork. And what Ashley Wood is like dope. Like they look cool as shit. It's got legit voice acting. Like a lot of times, and everybody that's been chiming in asking if we're gonna do portable ops, clearly we are. But a lot of people were like, dude, it's Metal Gear. It's got David Hayter. It counts. Like I don't care what anybody says. And I'm like, I gotta agree, because it really did feel like a Metal Gear game right off the bat. And that's why I had to use like that audio for the teaser, because it just was perfect and it didn't spoil anything. But to set that up, there's a lot of like reading in this, and a lot of text to exposit what the hell's going on, and doubling of it because they know you're probably not paying attention every time. So they tell you like the important stuff a lot, like, and it's all read to you, like not you have to read it. So I kind of want to hold that against it, but I get it's a portable system, so I'm gonna
not only
leave
that
behind.
but now I found myself annoyed with the repetition of information as well. But again, with the portable system, I think they're assuming that you're only logging a mission or two at a time. So it could be days, weeks, maybe between your missions, and you find out about your next objective at the end of a previous mission. I know I would forget between then and the next time I turned it on, even if it was only 24 hours later.
Come on. Pay the guy that did Campbell's voice. Have him debrief you if you're going to make that choice. Like,
That's
people
fair.
bitch about Navi in Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. They bitch about Navi. I'm like, this is Navi on steroids. Like, and it's reading. It's not even audibly told
I
to
know.
you. Like,
The voice
Either
actor
way,
for
whatever.
Campbell was quite talented at capturing a younger Paul
oh, yeah.
Iding.
That's something I still love about that, too. Iding. That's correct.
Oh, thank God.
I believe it is Iding. Yes, I think we've learned this in the Peter Larry interview. We know all about the proper pronunciations of people. So we got this long cutscene, and again, we say cutscene, but it's we're gonna establish that when they do audible cutscenes, I'll say, because obviously they have some stuff going on, but when they do, it's like really dope. Like, it's not the normal style of Metal Gear artwork. It's not the stuff you're used to seeing, but it's still striking and very talented, and it really does sort of set the mood for what we're doing in the 70s. And we meet Cunningham, who is he used to work for the CIA. He was the interrogation specialist, and he is like instantly, like, the game opens on Snake being thrown in jail. So like, okay, like he was supposed to be this dope soldier and he's already in prison. But we learn that he works for Fox, quote unquote, like it's a Fox mission, and they're sort of just setting up that he wants to know what's going on with the Philosopher's Legacy from Metal Gear Solid 3. And they say that it's been 6 years, so we know we're definitely in the 70s since then. So they start to like bring that up and sort of talk about it. And I don't mind it. I think it's pretty good, captivating sort of sequence. And like I said, it's great to hear Hader's voice again. And just like, I like the voice actors. Like even Cunningham was pretty solid. And then of course we learn that Fox is doing some shady shit potentially on, I guess we'll get to it later. We're in South America is all we know. Like, 'cause Snake's really good at that. To know like where we are based on like random sounds or smells of things. But we basically get out of the cutscene and we are in prison. I gotta say the first thing I did note was like, holy shit, 20 FPS it took me a real long time to get used to 20 FPS. I'm just being completely honest. I'm not a PC gamer. I don't count frames per second, but I guess once you really start dipping below 30, it was like I had to like pay attention to the controller because I was like moving faster than like what was happening. You guys have any issues with that? Like at least that opening, like, you're in your own prison cell, you can kind of doodle around. Do you guys have any struggle with that? What do you guys feel about the opening?
I didn't struggle with the frames per second at the beginning. There were some moments down the line in terms of turning a corner or peeking around a corner that I got caught up in that, but I don't know. The beginning was pretty humdrum for me. You got your usual tutorial on which buttons to push, and I don't have much to note from that.
Good. Well, congrats on that.
Thanks.
Yeah. Well, so I started out, I thought I'd be sneaky and play Portable Ops Plus.
Ooh.
And like have a slightly different take on like kind of like the subsistence take of the game.
Sure.
But it turns out that there's no story mode in Portable Ops Plus.
Oh,
they
no.
just like took that out of the game, and it's like the single player mode is like an infinity mission mode where
Whoa.
the game just keeps giving you missions over and over and over again. And that's it. There's no
That sounds exhausting.
plot. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds rough.
But when I figured out in the group chat in our Discord that I was not getting a story and was confused by what you guys were chatting, I like researched and said, "Oh, I just gotta play the normal version of the game." But
Got to play the OG, man.
yeah, that frame rate is real choppy.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, maybe it's coming from a couple modern games while I was playing this at the time.
Yeah,
But
well,
man,
the
it
frame
did take me a
rates
bit.
on the HD collection, which we played for 3. We all played. Well, Tori, you played on a PS2, right?
I did, yes.
So yeah, but Warren, you and I played on the HD, and the frame rates on those are really good.
Yes, very
They're
good.
solid, but this is like limited by the hardware.
That's what it is. It has nothing to do with game design. It's
Yeah.
just you're playing on a 4-inch screen.
Yeah.
What are you gonna do?
They managed somehow to put the Metal Gear Solid 3 subsistence engine into a PSP game, which is impressive.
Very
Yeah.
impressive.
I was surprised about that, how similar the visual aesthetic of the game was to Snake Eater.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we're in prison. We look out our door because we hear a bustle, and it is a young Roy Campbell. And another cool little bit of voice acting. Like again, I feel like I have to establish when they're, because sometimes we say cutscenes and sometimes there's just no voice acting, and I don't know if it's a glitch or if it's just, whatever story concept they wanted to do with it. But Roy pretty much catches you up with what's going on. We're in South America. We're in Colombia, and the Red Army, which we did talk about in a little bit in MGS3 when we talked about sort of Volgan and Radinovich, and they were part of the Red Army in a sense. And they've gained access to the San Jeronimo Peninsula, which is like where all of this game takes place. And Roy and his team were sent in to investigate and figure out what the hell's going on. And according to Roy, they were ambushed by the Fox unit. The Fox unit that Snake used to be a part of, quote unquote, that he walked away from that we learned in the opening cutscene. So he sort of says, hey, check that grate under your bed, which brilliant prison design. Let's just give a man-sized vent under your bed. Just put a regular old grate in front of it and, totally fine. And we just want good airflow in there. So you can sneak out. You learn how to use some of the buttons. So again, pretty good design as far as like an opening level to just get you used to it. Of course, Roy, the whole time, press the this button, check your L button. Like, thanks, Roy. But you get in, you get out, and I just have a quick question.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I was going to ask, what do you guys think of the sneaking suit?
Oh, I was going to ask a different question.
Well, here, let's go by yours first, and then we'll get to the sneaking suit.
Okay. My question is going to be, how many of you shot Roy in the face?
Chris, you would, man.
I didn't do it the time where I was like making sure I could comfortably talk about the story of this game because I am an overachiever and I was super ahead of this and I was like, damn, I kind of forget some of the story bits in this game because I had to read them. I definitely shot him the first time I played it.
Okay, so I didn't. Does anything happen in particular?
And he just tells you to cut it off, but
Cut it out.
it's just like payback, you know?
Yeah. The only thing I did in terms of fucking with Roy was knocking on the wall next to his cell door repeatedly and trying to open the cell and making him repeat that it's not going to work.
Oh yeah, you need the key.
Yeah.
So we get our MK22 hush puppy, and we get our. I wish I remembered the ridiculous polyamor suit or whatever it was called. I wanted to put it in there, and I was like, I'm going to butcher it regardless. So there's no reason to put it in there.
It was the polyamory suit.
Polyamory. But what did you guys think of the sneaking suit? Just the design of it. What do you think, Tori?
I can never get enough accentuation of Snake's ass. And the fact that he's wearing, it looks like he's wearing thigh-high socks because of the design of that suit. Really just,
Sure.
I mean, it was pleasing. I won't lie.
Okay. Sneakers on. What about you, Chris?
Yeah, I thought it was cool. It's got like
I'm trying to remember back. Did it look a lot like the MGS3 one we found, like the Russian sneaking suit?
no, it doesn't. It looked more to me like the Ground Zeroes suit.
Right. That's what. So I know I saw a similar design. So maybe that's what it is.
I think
yellow.
the Peace Walker design is this similar.
That yellow V seems really not sneaky, if you ask me. But
Yeah, that's
it's
a good
bright
point.
yellow. Like you can go running at midnight, Snake, whenever you want, and you don't have to worry about car. It's reflective.
It's
You'll be totally
it's
safe at
caution
night.
tape. You gotta watch out for those thick thighs.
Jeez. Hey,
And that juicy boot.
the juicy patoot. I love it. But you get your MK22 hush puppy, which we are so used to. So I am happy with my good old Snake. I got my sneaking suit. I'm ready to go. And we have a great conversation with Roy. We get sort of caught up with everything. And after we learn sort of our setting and basically probably where we're going to be for the rest of the game, we set up we hatch a plan of how do we communicate with those outside of the base? Because they got to be looking for us. We were sent here on a mission and we have to do encrypted comms where we have to be able to reach out without them knowing, things like that. So we need to find a communications base and we have to infiltrate and gain access so that we can reach out. And while doing that, we are also taught, hey, this is how you lean against a wall. This is how you use your radar. This is how guards are incredibly dumb in comparison to MGS3 as far as the AI is concerned.
I think that's a design choice to give you a bit of a break,
right?
because the shooting is less accurate, in my opinion, than the PS2.
Oh yeah.
I think
Quite.
the guards are dumber to give you a bit of a break for the control scheme disaster.
The lack of camera control, especially.
Right.
Yeah.
So what about the radar system? I'm just trying to find little questions that get us that we'll probably not bring up in future eps because they're just going to sort of be there all the time. What do we think about the radar system? Because apparently if there was anybody that had gripes with this game that even liked the game, a lot of people picked on the radar system because they said it shouldn't have been there at all. They wanted to be able to sneak like MGS3. And I don't know if I agree with that. I think this is pretty natural progression as far as the technology that would lead to the Soliton radar.
I agree with you, Warren. I think that this game uses the subsistence engine, right? And arguably the best improvement, I think, of Metal Gear Solid 3 Subsistence over the original version of the game was improvements made to the camera system. And that was kind of the basis that they used for the HD camera in the remakes, right? Or remaster. I don't know what the fuck you would call it. I mean, the
I don't
HD
remember
collection,
anymore.
Right?
I just call it HD collection because that's a whole argument of what's the difference between a remake and a remaster and
I don't
a
want to
reissue.
engage in that conversation. In the HD collection. So then you are taking that pretty good camera system and putting it on a console where you're limiting your control of the camera by nature of what buttons and stuff you have available. And I can't help but feel like, that's so counterintuitive from a design choice, you know?
Sure.
Agreed.
Especially since it takes up like top right corner of your screen too.
Yeah.
It's a lot of visual space.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, but you can't have that same level of sneaking. Like the critics who are saying, like, I want that option.
Yeah, you can't.
You can't do
There's
it
no
when
way you
you're
could.
like, God, how many times playing this game would you guys have like been able to complete some of the missions if you had no radar and just had to go off of like sight alone?
With only one joystick?
Yeah.
None
Yeah,
times.
that would have sucked.
None.
That would have been terrible.
Because what I appreciate about other games is you can rely on sound as well, especially in Snake Eater. The sound was kind of modified as far as you could hear when a soldier was closer to you versus further away.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that was true of Portable Ops. I remember hearing sounds as if they were near me when they were clearly not.
Yeah.
Or they were above you, for example. Like with the... maybe I'm jumping the gun a little bit, but...
That's right. I mean, that's why this one's going to be the weird episode, because this is where we get like all this out of the way. So by all means, just chat it out.
Yeah, so when you eventually get to a point where you have multiple planes to deal with, when you have multiple levels, like ground floor, above ground floor, and such, that radar really comes in handy because it shows you the direction of the source of the sound. And if you're seeing on your level that there's nobody there, you can go ahead and assume that that person is up above you. And then you already know you need to watch out when you get to the next level. So in those circumstances, I really felt appreciative of that radar.
I got to say, I got to take one issue with the radar system, that it calls itself a radar system and not a sonar system.
Yes.
I am a little surprised by that too, because it is. Yeah. It's strictly sound, but I guess it's visual. I guess that's why they would call it a radar, because you can literally see it, but you can do that with sonar too. So I don't know.
It's a visual sonar.
Right.
I don't know. That's my hot take critique on the radar system.
Sure. Well, that's like, I think we're all a little spoiled because we could play this on like a big screen. But if I'm remembering, because I did have a PSP and I was prepared to play it because I have the UMD disc, but my PSP bricked 2 years ago now, and I was like, there's no fucking way I'm buying another one. But like, if it's on that tiny little screen, I'm just thinking of like, that's valuable. Like, I can't tell if there's a guard back there, viewable space for me. Like, I need to be able to see more of the screen. But hey, whatever.
There are mods,
where,
Warren, for this game.
Yeah.
That make it 60 FPS.
Oh wow.
Amazing. See, I know. I guess I have to start
I've
not being fucking 100 years old and playing these kind of mods. Yeah, I've never played a modified version of anything ever.
I played a modded version of this game that puts it in 60 FPS. It does mess with the cutscenes, so you have to turn it off and on.
Oh, sure,
Because
sure.
what they did was they matched the animation and the vocal dialogue to like the frame rate.
Sure, yeah, it makes
So
sense.
It like the lip syncing and stuff is off in all the
Would be
cutscenes.
terrible, right?
Yeah. So you got to switch back. But the gameplay, it does make it a little bit better. Not as huge of a difference as you would think, though.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So, and then I would say this is where I've starting to really like, now this game is very different than MGS3 because we're talking about the comm base. So I'm like ready to be like, all right, let's break out. Let's go to the open area to find out where the comm base is. And we go to a menu and we learn about menuing and we got to gather intel. And here's where it is. Click the dot on the thing because that's where we're going next. And we got to hear that truck.
Yeah.
Just all that stuff getting together. And I'm just, after, like I said, by the time we're done talking through this episode, that's going to be an expectation for me and I'm going to not really mind it. But initially I'm like, man, it feels like it's slowing the game down for me because I want to just progress naturally like I'm used to in these games.
Yeah.
But what I'll do is we'll move through the comm base and then maybe we can start talking when we meet our lovely first recruit is when we'll talk about the menu system, just because I
Our
have
sweet
plenty
boy.
to say about the menu system. Our sweet boy, who we love.
Everybody's sweet.
So we want to get to the comm base. So we can tell the comm base because of the satellite dish. World does open up a little bit more, and I think that I'm starting to like the fact that it's like, okay, these are like little paintball scenarios, little Rainbow Six scenarios, and they're tiny little missions. They're their own map that you're told you can't leave or go here or here unless you want to click the menu button to get out. And you have to sort of get in, and we send a codec call because we find out where we got to go. I guess it felt a little odd, though. Again, like initial like reaction to the game, like there's basically like a go here,
Yeah.
little red box, like go here, like this is the mission. I don't know. I understand that they wanted you to do that, but that's very not Metal Gear. The whole point of Metal Gear was like, do whatever you want to get to the outcome. We hope you don't notice that we designed a certain way that you should be going. So initially I'm like, all right. I mean, I didn't mind it because I'm like, oh, thanks. Like, that's fucking super helpful. I'll go over to the red box.
Well, I think it's the equivalent of having it marked on the map when you open up your menu, which is something
Sure.
they've done in previous games, or at least in Snake Eater. I think in Snake Eater it made sense because it was such an open world, but in portable apps, you're pretty limited on where you can go. So
Right.
I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that. In some cases I found it useful, and others I was a little bummed that I didn't rely more on my exploratory inclination.
Well, yeah, that was my thing, was just more like I wanted to get the story as best I can because I remember legitimately enjoying the story of this. So I was like, I'm just going to go through and I'll front load all the time. And then I'm just going to burn through exactly what I need to. But we get access to our comms. We send a codec call. And we talk to Paramedic, who catches us up on some things. We also hear from Mr. Sigint. So now we know the plot of the game after this conversation. But again, we are reading the plot. This is not audible. We are reading codec now. But essentially, Snake has to clear his name and capture or kill the leader of this rogue Fox unit that is commanding Russian troops in Colombia. That's basically like what we have to do now. We'll learn why they're there, what do they have there, things like that. But how can we figure this out? What are we going to do? But we're not alone. We have Mr. Roy Campbell, and we can now communicate with him through the good old 140.85 on the codec, which was kind of like a nice... I was like, okay, I see you, game. Like I see what you did there, and I like it.
Nice little callback.
Yeah. So we're ready to go. And we're learning. The big progression of the game is you are gathering intel. So as we continue through some of the story bits in this, I'm just going to have to say we gathered intel to find this out. Because again, we're a games club cast, but we're not a strategy guide. Oh, you have to send, your at least a 75 rank spy out to this particular part of the map, and you're going to get to be able to make the right hand grenades, the right this, and like, we're not going to do all that. I'm just going to say we found intel, and that's how we can progress the story, things like that. So just to set expectations.
Yeah,
moving forward.
Speaking of that, there's a lot of extra stuff to do. Well, that sounds so intelligent. There are a lot of options for development, weapons development. What's the word I'm looking for? You have, which we'll get to later, you have a technical group where you can place your recruited soldiers. And I'll be honest, I didn't mess with that except for when I needed to progress the story. What about you guys?
Yeah. I didn't at first, but like I said, I definitely I was like, I totally used the guide. Like the next round so that I could just feel really comfortable, and if there was some stuff that would be fun to bring up. Unfortunately, I don't know if it makes the game any better. But yeah, you can literally it's crazy the amount of stuff you can grab that you could choose to make the game easier. You can get body armor like crazy early in the game, and that's massive. That could be the difference between 25 boss fights and 2 boss fights if you got body armor early enough in the game.
Body armor was the discovery of the body armor was pretty exciting for me, but then I didn't use it for the rest of the game.
Right.
Yeah.
What about you, Chris? Did you like that loop? Because I didn't mind it.
I didn't mind. I thought it was fine. It's interesting to consider how much Metal Gear Solid 5 borrows from this game.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Its entire structure. The DNA for 5 is here.
Mm-hmm. Oh, definitely. As far as design, that's I would like to say that's a compliment to the game.
Yeah, I think it is. I think this is a well-designed game, for sure.
Nice.
Because it does keep me more engaged than even some other Metal Gear games I've played. I thought that the plot here is better than 5 for sure.
Yeah, the plot's pretty legit.
The
I
plot
legitimately
is what
am
kept
invested.
me playing the game. To be honest with you, I was playing the game
Same.
in spite of some of the issues I was having with the controls and stuff, which I complained about, and I'm complaining about now, but I was able to mitigate a lot of that for myself because of modern stuff you can do with emulation. But,
yep, same here.
yeah, the plot is just solid. The characters are great, and that is even in the marketing. There's an interview that Ryan Payton did for IGN for marketing this game, and he said that to understand Metal Gear Solid 4, you would have to play this game. The plot, it filled in a piece of the plot. And I have no idea what he's talking about because I don't know what of the plot fits in to 4 in such an integral
I wonder if that's
way.
something he wants to do, because he had sort of in that first interview with him, he sort of he was ready to go into he wants to do a whole conversation with us, which again, thank you, Ryan.
Yeah.
He wants to do a whole conversation about the origin of the story, story he wants to talk about. It's not the gameplay, it's not the design. He really he wanted to say more, and basically was nah, well, we'll have another conversation about story. And I was great, this is fantastic.
That is absolutely the thing about this game is the story is so compelling and well done. It is one of the best in the Metal Gear series.
Yeah, I think I can safely say that now too.
It really makes getting to those cutscenes worthwhile. It's easy to grind through some, I don't want to say menial tasks, but some of the more repetitive pieces of the game just to get to that story. Because I agree, it is very solid, and it made this game worthwhile.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The characters, I really cared about them, and the team that you build. And I think that kind of goes into the thing you're talking about next, Warren.
Yeah. So we gather intel on a patrol base, and we gain access to a truck. And they sort of have a conversation between Roy and Snake. A truck.
Oh, what? What's that?
That noise is so good. I can't wait. That's definitely gonna be our thing this season, because you hear it 100 times in the game at least.
I guess I'm queuing it here too. So
It's drilled into my brain.
So we gain access to a truck, and they're basically setting up like, hey, now we can sort of move where we need to go. We just got to find out where we need to go on the map that we have to move forward. And we're sort of understanding that now we're learning that the soldiers that are there, again, we learned that they were sort of basically guarding a place that doesn't exist anymore after the Cold War and all the stuff that sort of happened in MGS3 and the aftermath of the Cuban Missile Crisis. And we'll go into more detail when we start talking about certain characters. But not necessarily everybody's there because they love the new leader of the Fox unit that's sort of running this like coup, or like this, this new militia that's going to be the same threat that we were concerned about when we talked about the Cuban Missile Crisis. So we can have conversations, in quotes, with these people, and we can basically tell them like, yo, working for Big Boss, that legendary guy, killed that hot chick back in 64, like, you want to be with me.
Hell yeah.
oh my god, killed that hot chick.
Yep. Sorry, I don't mean to do that to the boss.
I mean,
she is
you're
way more than just a beautiful woman.
You're not wrong.
She is way more than that. However, maybe some people only got the cliff notes, So now we're going to establish that we are going to use that as like, okay, we're going to build our own team and we can fight back against the sort of random motley crew of troops that are sort of here to fight back. And I guess this is where like the loop begins as far as like your gameplay loop. It's going to be find intel, go to this place on the map, do what you got to do. If you want to work with the team you have, do that, or you can start establishing new teams and things like that. It'll open up in a tiny little bit because I'm trying to think if I can do this in order, because I'm trying to make sure I do this right. So we want to convince soldiers, and as we are learning, we're learning about Gene, this character Gene, in like the cutscene between two soldiers sort of telling us, yeah, this sucks. Like, I would like to go home, if I'm being honest, but I guess we're here. And they mention Gene. So we can scout the area. We can sort of unlock weapons and do all that like we just talked about. But we meet our first soldier. Now, what's funny is no matter who you trap or convince or whatever in that area, it doesn't have to be anybody in particular. It's always Jonathan first. So everybody who plays this game,
Sweet
it
boy
will be
Jonathan.
So what do we think about Jonathan? Go ahead, Tori. Obviously, you're in love.
I do. I love Jonathan. There's nothing specifically that I could say or that I could pinpoint about Jonathan. It's just, he's just such a good soldier boy. I don't know. Maybe Chris can articulate it better than I can.
He's got like a wholesome vibe to him. He's a sweet boy. He's sad, and he feels left and alone, and I think Jonathan's trustworthy because he's just honest with Snake about how he feels about the whole situation, kind of right off the bat.
Oh yeah,
and I think that endears Snake to Jonathan a little bit.
Yeah. He started out, I thought it was interesting. Jonathan was he just trusted Gene with all of him at first until he learned who Snake really was, until he learned Snake's true identity. And then suddenly he trusted what Snake was saying about Gene and his intentions. And I just thought that was, interesting. It makes Jonathan a much more loyal kind of character.
Yeah, and without getting too much into it, and what we learn about Gene as well, like why people listen to him, perhaps, or that maybe that's not in effect after Boss. Like maybe Boss sort of can be an antidote in a sense of just like people realizing that, because again, the name Big Boss, like he is a fucking massive hero, especially to the Russians because of getting rid of Volgin and the American defector and all of that. So he is like the biggest guy ever. Like he is like their best soldier that's ever lived, like the Russian hero of all heroes. So when he says something, they're going to listen regardless. And I thought it was a little, like I said, I kind of was like, you got me game. They did a little prove you're a soldier from the boss. And Snake sort of like, I was laughing because I'm thinking of us because we're like, yeah, what? The boss said a lot of shit in that game. And we still kind of joked about like, what was the will of the boss? Like, what is actually the end game here for? Did it mean something different for every person on purpose? Is it just being interpreted wrong? But I like that Snake is, yeah, we're definitely going to get there.
I was just going to say, we'll touch on that again in the next game even. It's a very contentious thing.
Yeah. And I like that they do that because it's very obvious that she's going to make a massive, her influence on Snake is going to affect him for years to come. And I like that he almost like still makes like the joke of like, I don't know what it means. Like, you have a different meaning for it than I do. Just as long as you're with me, I think we can do this, right?
Maybe that's how it fits into 4, Warren, like what you just touched on there of like, it's part of the cycle, right? And that's sort of the theme of MGS4 is like it's a cycle of violence that just keeps going, father and son, father and son. And in
Sins of the father. Yep.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
So
I like that. That. And Jonathan is like sort of our info dump of learning about it was a Russian base, it was a race from existence. This Gene character came in, promised them a nation.
yes.
And we get talk of justice, in quotes, and country. So he's starting to talk about like, we're going to build a nation for ourselves. We don't answer to anyone. We are our own boss. Which is like, okay, like, gotcha. Thanks, Jonathan. But Jonathan's kind of like, it seems like a lot of hogwash to me. I don't necessarily agree. But this is where now the final piece of like the touch of like how the gameplay loop goes is now we can manage our team. So we can manage like Alpha, Bravo, Delta. So we have a whole team of characters that now we can recruit. They have different sort of skills or I guess rankings of every type of skill. So some of them are good with technology. Some are good with medic. Some are good with stamina. Some are good, like with, I guess health is like a main one too you have where you can use that and build your team. Ideally, they want a team of 4 for just at least the main players of the mission, but you can then start sending out your other teams to gather intel, whether it be to progress the story, new weapons, new technology, things like that to make the game easier. We get back. Campbell has malaria, of all things.
Parasites.
Yeah, parasites that a malaria drug can defeat it.
Well,
Technically.
they act on the body. That's a smart sentence. They manifest similarly to malaria.
Gotcha. It makes sense. So obviously we got to talk to our main girl, paramedic. She's going to help us out how to fix it. And we gather intel about a hospital and a research lab nearby. Now, I think this is where we can start talking about at least something I really like about this game is the like art design and the style of the menus. Because I, made jokes that like this game is technically like 7 hours, but it's like a 20-hour game because you're spending double that in menus. You're picking your people and you're checking stuff and you're equipping and you're, doing a lot of that. However, the AI or the UI and just how everything looks, I don't know. I think it's really fucking slick and I like it like a lot. Chris, I think we share love with this. So what do you think about the menu design?
I like it. It's very stylish in the way that Persona 5 is. From like a UI perspective, it's fun to navigate. It's engaging. It fits so well with the Metal Gear Solid theme and aesthetic. Whoever designed the UI, they deserve an award, a couple of awards. They should have designed the UI for 5, I think.
Sure. I think so. I love it.
Those like the menus where it's just like you see Mother Base or whatever in 5 and that's it. These were a lot more engaging, in my opinion. The animated look of it all. Yeah.
What do you think, Tori?
Yeah, I so here's the deal with Portable Ops. I'm playing this technically after I've played Peace Walker. So I've seen this UI before, and I really enjoyed it. And coming back to Portable Ops after that, I don't have any complaints. I don't feel like there was any regression, so to speak, from the menu system in Peace Walker compared with Portable Ops. So, yeah, I think it was, especially for the introduction of this game mechanic, that menu system is awesome. I love that you can look at the stats of each soldier you recruit. You can, I learned very late in the game, change their loadout.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Place them in whatever unit makes the most sense for them, and you can tell by their ranking for that like specialty, I guess is how you'd call it.
I think they call it career
For
some.
okay.
I think it has like a weird name, but it's like if they're a career this, they naturally have, you know, better stat boosts in whatever that career affects.
Right. Yeah, and that's another thing they tip you off about. It's like if you press what is it, circle, I think, you'll get information about what their strong suits are, and you know automatically where to place them. So that's pretty neat.
Yeah, it's like a nice little macro. It's like a nice little quality of life, so you don't have to stat check every single. There's like 16 stats per person
Oh
with
my
like
God.
A, C, C, B, A, A, A. I'm like, oh my God, man. And there's no words. It's just like dope ass little fucking icons. Like, so it looks great, but it does take a little bit to be like, what the hell does all this mean?
It can get tedious, that's for
Yeah.
sure, but it doesn't have to be,
Yeah.
especially the more you recruit.
Right. And I liked it because the concept of like, so now I'm like, oh, okay, so Jonathan just told us where the hospital is, right? That's how the story progresses. So now that's our mission. So we like I'm like, oh, I can replay the supply depot. Like I can go back and maybe, I really wish I went downstairs or whatever, you know, like I went right to the comms or whatever it was. And I was like, oh, I can go back and like find more stuff. I didn't just like lose out because, you know, like the door shut or something like in that. So I was like, okay, that's pretty cool. At least I can choose to go back and like grab what else the game wanted me to find. Does that make sense? You look like you want to say something, Tori. Go ahead.
Yeah, for sure. I'm especially excited that you brought up the supply depot, because that was the place for soldier recruitment for me. I can't tell you how many times I've visited the supply depot, but I got it down to a science. And I can tell you right now, it started by, do you guys have a vivid vision of the supply depot in your brain?
I do, yes. I don't know
So-
if our players will, but or our listeners.
Here's hoping
but
I
at the
can
moment I do.
paint this pretty well. So from the truck, if you cross that little mound and catch the attention of the guard looking through the window from that building, he'll go, huh? And then come find you. Now, if you go and hide behind a little wall and just have your Mark 22, my most used weapon, by the way,
Nice.
if you just have it aimed at him, you can pop him off real quick, drag him back to the truck, continue on in the direction you were originally going in. And usually there's a soldier around there too. Or you can... Oh, no. Okay. So no, wait. Sorry. This is really specific because I did this level so many times. So if you continue around past that building, there's a set of stairs that go up and lead you by that very same building. Or no, it's a building behind it, I think, even.
It's the one next to it, right?
There's another soldier in there whose attention you can get if he's in there. Otherwise, he is walking out the door and away from you. And you can pop him off, and you can get the guy in the furthest building away from you and drag them back to your truck. And then you can continue on deeper into those other buildings where they have a basement layer
Oh yeah, they're all over the place.
an above ground layer.
But we have to get to that
And-
later. We're not at that big of area yet.
But all I'm saying is, listen, this is a really long way to say I know the shit out of this level.
That's awesome.
It
Well, that's
was-
good. I
it
think that
was
was
my
I think
go-to.
that's the point. I think that's the point of the design, though. So I think it lends it because what you said there, I feel the same way about the hospital,
Okay.
and I'll explain why when we get there. So we are at the hospital. Now, obviously, we are. It's all about finding the medicine to help Campbell. But so I actually appreciate as we've gone through, like the maps are getting slightly bigger. There's more places to crawl. There's more corridors. There's more stairs and levels as we progress, which is really nice. I was like, okay. And logically, it sort of makes sense. Like I would assume a hospital would be bigger than a comms base, right? Like that's pretty standard. Like I was like, okay, this is also story-wise making sense why we're getting to sort of bigger things. We get to the top of the building. We find our little red marker. But the drug shipment doesn't seem to be there. That we had intel that the drug shipment was coming. And we're trying to figure out what's going on here. We don't know. And we get another cool cutscene. And there's a chopper going around. And there's some new people for us to meet. I at least tried to make it appealing in the notes here for when that's our patron thing here. So another psychic, as we may or may not think. They mentioned Python. And there's a mysterious woman sort of sitting there, whether that's a different person or not, but there's like this girl up there as well. So I was like, okay. And they're just sort of talking about, the normal stuff. We just catch it. The drugs were taken to a research lab somewhere nearby, and that's where the chopper is headed. So, of course, mission complete. Gather intel. Let's go. All right, we know where the research lab is. Let's do this. We go in. Research lab. Now, the only reason why I say hospital, Tori, and I guess we're trying not to do the sort of guide, but the only struggle I really had with this game was stamina when it came to gameplay. If you go to the hospital, you can always find rations. They replenish constantly. And you can replay and gather a crap ton of them, and you can just divvy them out as you need to. So that was like my huge help of just like, as long as I have rations and MK22 bullets, I will take an hour to play a level if I have to, because I can just take one step, find what I need, keep moving, because I'd always have enough stamina. And that was always part of my loadout. I would just have rations on the right-hand side almost exclusively. So I did that a lot. So we get to the research lab. And again, solid progression in level design. The research lab is pretty great. Now I'm starting to see, sort of like when we talked about Metal Gear Solid 3, when we talked about that opening sort of maps, like the set of maps that have, we had the bridge, and then we had like the supply, there was all this stuff. This is a pretty good size map. And I honestly thought like, oh, they're going to be this big all the time, and they still progress past this. So I was really happy about that. So we sneak into the main floor of the building, and we find, it looks like a machine. But it looks like it's just, who knows what it is, but it's like this big kind of machine. We deduced that potentially the drugs are already on the chopper. We didn't get there fast enough. And we find ourselves with another cutscene. And we hear about a perfect soldier who is programmed. And we hear Null as a name. It seems like Gene has some brainwashing or something going on. Like when he speaks, people listen straight up to a point where like something's fucking weird, whether he's a telepath, whatever it is, some people listen to him, and it's very, very weird. But when that cutscene is done, we move back to the research lab, and the box we found earlier, like the machine. Yeah. What do you want to call it?
So the brainwashing thing.
Yeah.
Does that remind you of like the Ocelot thing in 4?
I guess it does, but I feel like when I'm doing this for sake of like, I don't want to ruin the story,
Right.
why people listen to him and things like that. But I immediately went to a different game in the franchise because I was like, oh, right. Because the choices he's making happen. Like I feel bad, but like maybe 2 episodes from now we'll really get into that. But yeah, so brainwashing. So what I see what you mean, but again, I feel like it's a stepping stone towards another game in the franchise that isn't 4, because 4 is so far beyond the rest of the game series, I guess, except for 2. But like,
Yes,
as
but
far
it
as
is
years,
a good bit of foreshadowing, though, isn't it?
I guess it would be, right? I mean, in their eyes, it's I guess it is foreshadowing because the games are made at the same time, but story wise, it's years. 50 at
That's
that point.
true. I too, like Chris, went to exactly that scene. I know which one you're talking about with Ocelot and MGS4, but I also went after that to Plankton and what I think was the first SpongeBob movie. If anybody else out there knows what I'm talking about, hopefully you make that connection.
It's a
Let me
sick
know.
SpongeBob reference
know
done
what
by
you're
the
talking
makers
about.
of Metal Gear
Do
Solid
you?
Portable Ops.
Good. I just, you have to call out other notable references when you find them, right?
Sure.
Right?
I'm not a big SpongeBob guy. Sorry.
Okay, we'll talk about that later.
I'm 100 years old, Tori. Okay.
All right,
wasn't really.
that's fair.
I told myself I was an adult by the time that show was popular. Let's put it that way.
You're never too old for cartoons, Warren.
I learned that the hard way, and I'm way too old now to think it's funny. I respect it, though. I'll at least give it
All
that.
right. Okay.
So we get back to the research lab, and the machine or the box we had found is open. And it looks like something or someone was sleeping in there. Like it's like a chamber. And we meet Elisa.
It's like a nest.
Yeah, like a nest, yeah. And we meet Elisa. I put kid in quotes, but a kid who helps us hide and is a medic for the Red Army.
You're pretty young.
Right.
Is a quote by Snake. Is
Yeah.
an actual quote by Snake.
I know. And it gets I guess not grosser, but they
Uh,
talk
kinda
about that
gets-
she looks good and is a kid. So that's not this episode though.
And then a certain
Yeah.
something, some pervy something happens, which
I know.
is not
We'll-
surprising, but
We
We'll
can
call
have
that
a whole
out.
episode on the sins of the father here. Across this whole franchise.
I gotta say though, I mean, keeping her age aside because it is a video game, but I was charmed by Elisa. Just how she sort of represented herself, how she like again the concept of like a super smart kid is not like so foreign to me in like a Metal Gear Solid world. Granted, this is before Sunny, but the concept of like, hey, like Emma was a genius and she was a kid in 2, so like I really appreciated her, and we learned very quickly because she sort of becomes fast friends with Snake. She helps him for no reason. We don't really know why. But she divulges that her sister was Ursula. Her twin sister, Ursula, is the woman that we saw in the chopper earlier with Jean and is a member of Fox. Yes, Tori?
can I just mention something before we get too far into this?
Sure.
I want to talk more about this, but I also want to say, I know there are very few ears that will continue to listen to this, but I just have to say, the kid character in each of these games, it's always a woman. It's always a fucking woman. Meryl's just a green kid. Emma's just a kid. I don't think that's true of Eva or anybody else in Metal Gear Solid 3, but it's just... It's frustrating. Even Elisa, who has fucking ESP, just a kid. Not too young to really know or have experience. It's just a very frustrating trope that Kojima continues to perpetuate, and it irks me.
I think you're right. I mean,
Yeah, it sucks because she holds herself, she doesn't act like a kid.
yeah.
No,
You know
not
what I
at
mean?
all.
She just
But that's
is,
the
she
first
just
thing
is
out of his
one.
mouth about her. It's the first thing he says is, "You're pretty young."
Right. No, you're not wrong. I mean, it sucks. No, I see it.
Dude.
I see the frustration.
Yeah. There's also like a lot in these games as a whole just about like child soldiers and children
Yeah.
participating in war.
That's true.
and I want to give the benefit of a doubt, but like, yeah, I think in this game it's handled better than in Peace Walker for sure.
Oh, that's true. That's a
Now,
good. Oh God,
I gotta
yeah,
say,
that's a good point.
maybe because I think you had said that you weren't really into 5, like you hadn't played it a ton. The kid characters are men, if that helps a little.
All right, 1 out of like fucking 10.
Well, 1 out of 4, right? Because they're not all kids in all the games.
There's only one female character really in 5,
Right.
and she
Oh,
doesn't
and the
talk.
XOF soldiers are all girls, right? Or the whatever they're called in that game. I hope they're called XOF. Jesus, the Twitter police are coming.
The skull parasite things. No,
Yeah,
those are-
like the unit you fight, like the 4 or 5 of them. They're all like they're all runway models that can also murder you.
Oh, I think that's 4. That's
No,
4.
no, that's the Beauty and the Beast unit. But like
That's all I'm saying is they're
Yeah.
either hypersexualized or they're children. And
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
you know what? I've been on my soapbox long enough, but just food for thought.
Well, I mean, you're calling a spade a
support
spade. You're
that.
just saying what it is, though. I mean,
It is.
I have no stance to. Even if I did in any way disagree with you, I would be telling you something that isn't accurate because we're playing. That the whole point of doing this is because we're going to play all the games, so we're going to be very obviously seeing that like shit. She's right. I was just trying to find a time where I'm like, can I at least help and be like, not all the time. And 5 technically does that.
I do know of another one that negates what I just said, and it's in Ghost Babel.
Yeah.
But still, more often than not,
Let me ask though. In those games, look at the games and like who the writer was. Right.
interesting.
So the games that Kojima had more input on and the ones he had less input on.
Interesting point.
Yeah, that is true. I like that. Ooh. So maybe we'll keep digging into that as we go. But
Well put.
the story of Ursula and Elisa, I do like. They were in
do
East
too.
Germany, war-torn East Germany. Jean basically came in and saved them. And the reason why they're both still around is Ursula began to grow psychic powers. However, when that sounds great, but when we talk
Yeah.
to Elisa, she says, well, she keeps becoming like less human because of her powers being unlocked, and she barely talks to her sister at all, if at all.
Probably never is my guess.
Would be my understanding. Yes, would be my understanding.
Right.
But
This is
yeah, go ahead.
well, okay, so her character, she's from East Germany.
Yes.
Right. Elisa is, and Ursula is as well.
Mhm.
And I don't know. It's interesting because the theme of this game is kind of also split allegiances.
Yeah.
And that's
Absolutely.
kind of a big thing of like the dialogue that we left off of in 3. It was like your country, who the boss's question of where does your loyalty lie?
Yep. And
And-
it's gonna get real funky for a little bit there, where we're gonna hear that wasn't the real plan like 3 times real quick.
Oh my god. I have that
Yeah.
in quotes on my note sheet because it's just so my real plan.
Yeah. But well, again, right now we're all like intrigued. We're like season 1.
Yeah, sorry. There's
of
like
Portable
8
Ops.
things I want to jump to, so I
I
better
know.
take note.
Well, that's the downside of like because so MGS3 was a lot more beefier, right? Like a lot more stuff going on. Where this is like it's all like outside of the gameplay design. Like I definitely became more of a fan of it. But again, like Chris said, the story is like why I'm here. Like I want to keep playing because I'm like, yeah, I fucking love a lot of this shit. Like, and then as the story goes on, because like I said, I was very charmed by Elisa. Like I was like, oh shit, this like super smart medic. And she actually wants to help because it's not just like, oh yeah, like it could have been way worse than like my sister doesn't talk to me anymore, but we were at least saved from a terrible war-torn country. Like it could have been like way less interesting or like cheesy as fuck or like Gene's my dad, but he is, like that kind of shit. They're just really good at what they do. But we learn that the guy in the box is Null. Or at least the guy that was in the box was Null. And for people that may be new to the concept of that, basically he's the Winter Soldier. They program him to be like the baddest like ultimate killer. They wipe his memory so that he can exclusively focus on the mission at hand. When he is reactivated, and nothing will stop him from completing his mission. And they sort of mention that a lot. Like Gene's annoyed that like he's only like active for 3 hours, or he has to rest for 24 hours to do the whole process. He's like, what the hell? Like he's no different than a test subject then. Like what the hell? I thought this was a successful like permutation of this content. And like all the scientists are like, no, like, that's not even close at all.
So I think that's telling, because what some of the commentary I've seen within this series is the objectification of and commodification of, I think, even soldiers, and like soldiers specifically, but people in general.
Mm-hmm.
And this lends a great, I guess, light to the fact that people in positions like Gene's really only operate in one way. And god damn, don't we know that after the year 2020, when you start to see exactly how people in positions of power think about the people who actually do the work for them.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe this is too meta for right now, but it's just, I don't know. It's interesting to me how well Metal Gear can be placed into our actual experience.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Well, it's obvious that they go hand in hand a lot, like all the way down to the Nintendo ones. Like they're
Yeah,
designed
for sure.
with that in mind. They're meant to be as realistic, as far as the human condition, as realistic as possible for someone's brain to process something, or some sort of complex, or some sort of study on human behavior or manipulation, whatever it is. But they pride themselves on at least sticking to that. So everything can be fucking batshit crazy, like we've talked about, but still, it does resort to like a basic condition, and they extrapolate insanely on that. I would argue not to a fault, because even when shit gets wild, I still love the story of the Metal Gear games.
It's so
it
entertaining.
obviously works.
But factually true. It's like absurd on the one hand, but also more realistic in ways than you would assume.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. So Snake gets on Elisa's good side right away, which is nice, because he has like the opportunity to like, well, you can kill Null. Like that's the intent. And he won't do it. He does not assassinate. Especially he doesn't assassinate soldiers when their guard is down, is what he likes to say.
Hell
And
yeah, man.
She already
man.
is like, you're my guy. Like, okay, I believe in you, because you basically, you could stop a future boss fight. Like that's basically what it would look like to me. And she hands over the malaria, quote unquote, parasite medication. And basically says like, we got you, let's bring this back to Campbell. Let's do this. And meanwhile, we dispatch a spy unit that gives us intel on a supply depot that the truck is headed for, and that where it is. So then we know where we're going to move on when we get to our next episode of Metal Gear Solid Portable Ops.
Ooh,
So
what a cliffhanger.
as far as, we'll say outro, whatever you guys want to call it, but as far as like our thoughts on the opening of the game, because this is, the normal, right? A lot of cutscenes, a lot of reading, a lot of exposition, a lot of gameplay. Like this is we're now learning, like right towards the end there is like, now we're getting like the good bits. We're getting the story. We're meeting future enemies we're going to fight, right? We already know we're going to fight whoever this Python character they're talking about. We just met a super soldier. We got a psychic. We got a guy that seems to be brainwashing or whatever. He's like this new, leader of something. He's got his whole manifesto that he's probably living. We don't know it yet. But if we're trained with Metal Gear, we know that we're going to get some bananas fucking story that ties everything together.
Yeah,
And
That's what I'm here for.
Yeah, and I will say before we do our little final thoughts on this opening, I will ask any listeners out there, if this was like your first Metal Gear game, which you are out there, I've read the comments. Please feel free to chime in to us and just sort of catch us up on, because this has got to be weird for some people that this is their first game in the Metal Gear, learning all the other stuff that happens in the games. This isn't really doing that just yet. I like it, especially the story bits. But please reach out to us, because I do want to know sort of your thoughts on just this being your first game, or how did it get pitched to you? Was this like, did you go back way later? Was this right after Metal Gear Solid 3? Please let us know that. So you can go to Contact Metal Gear Mondays, or just, Metal Gear Mondays on Twitter, Facebook, all that stuff. Please reach out, though, because I'm legitimately interested.
I do have a quick addendum there. It's actually Metal Gears Monday at gmail.com now.
Metal Gears Monday at gmail.com. Please reach out to us there. That would be fantastic. So to wrap it up, Tori, final thoughts on sort of the opening. I usually try to make these episodes like 2 hours of gameplay. So outside of you maybe running train on the supply depot for hours and hours and hours, how do you feel about the opening couple hours of Portable Ops?
The first time I played through it, I was genuinely intrigued by where it was going, and I guess it just took playing those first 2 hours to understand that this really is an integral Metal Gear game. It's not, when you get down into it, it's not just like an extra superfluous bit of here's more Metal Gear. And I appreciate that even though the limitations of the portable system posed their problems, the team was able to put a solid story in with, again, as far as limitations go, the cutscenes are graphically very pleasing. The voice acting, still awesome. You're getting great bits of story. And by this time, at our stopping point, I would say I was probably already pretty hooked. It just sucks that I had to play that part fucking 3 or 4 times.
Because, and I won't call it out, because probably when episode 2 drops is when I'll probably pick a little bit on pacing.
Sure.
But I would say
That's
the
fair.
first opening, I don't think the pacing is really an issue. I'm just like waiting for the introductory boss fight we're all used to, even if it is 4 guards in an elevator, right? Like nothing's really felt like sort of an elevated battle mechanic other than learn the map, find the intel, move on. We haven't gotten that yet, which, not that we have to do that in the first, 2 hours of a Metal Gear game, but it's pretty close. They try to like give you, something to shoot for your first time you're playing through. Like, they probably think you're going to put the controller down by this point, as far as story goes.
I think it's fair that you might, in the way that it was set up. I just want to add too that it's hard to improve on a boss system, like a boss battle map maybe, or blueprint, when it's for a different system, because I'm sure with a lot of Metal Gear fans, it took a while to get used to this. I know it took me a while. I still wanted to use that second joystick that wasn't there.
Agreed. What about you, Chris?
Yeah, I feel good about the first dip back into this game. I liked what you sort of called out, how this game slowly opens up rather than just like dropping you in a situation. Yeah, I think I've slept on this game until, we decided we were going to cover it. So I'm glad I'm revisiting it now. Better late than never, they say.
Especially now. That's what we're hoping. A lot of we've been getting called out on, like, how come we haven't done like this podcast in general, not just the Revengeance crew. Like, how have we not done like an extended conversation on the game? They've done obviously content on it, but it wasn't like a full dedicated season to it like before.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing, is it's got that label as a portable game. And this comes from a time when we thought of portable games as like lesser in a way due to limitations. Just looking at the comparison between like a Game Boy And like portable games were still thought of in that mindset of like a Game Boy,
Mhm.
you know?
Sure.
So I don't know. The people who made this game had not just the challenge of meeting Metal Gear fans' expectations, but also challenging the concept of a portable game and
Oh,
what it
it's-
was to like
I couldn't imagine being
yeah.
on the design team of how do we do the thing that is make this feel like a Metal Gear game, but also like we have to make it make sense on a 4-inch screen. We have to change the entire control scheme in the same engine. You know, just there. I don't know. I don't know how they did it. And going through it, at least for now, I'm definitely in.
Yeah.
I thought I would be a little more clunky towards it, just because
Warren's
you
in.
know I am. Yeah, I feel like I am a little bit of a Metal Gear like Fife. I'll call myself out in the sense, because
Hold
I'm
on.
not. Yeah.
Sorry, you talk about how old you are all the time, but I don't know what that means. What's a fife?
Like when people want to knock a fife, like I guess I don't want to say it. The current word now is like a simp. A
simp?
fife is like a simp.
Okay.
So like almost like a bad Metal Gear game is better than, you know, the best Final Fantasy game to me. I don't necessarily mean that's true, but like it's really hard for me to be like, this game sucks if it has Metal Gear on top of it. I'm gonna dig deep enough
okay.
to find out. Like, you know, some people defend Stanley Kubrick. Oh, he did that on purpose. When it's like, or maybe it was just a continuity error. I'm like, you don't know. I feel like I always give the benefit of the doubt when it comes to playing a Metal Gear game, and luckily I'm just happily rewarded of I think I'm okay with like most people would fight back and say Portable Ops isn't canon if we were doing the show, and in my head I'm like, no, I'd rather play it. I'd rather find out if I'm correct if it's not canon or whatever, you know. But I'm enjoying. I'm definitely happy. First couple hours, like I said, the pacing, I really was surprised by the time we got to like this part. I'm trying to like cut the story up, and I'm like, well, nothing really fun's happened yet as far as like fun to talk about other than like the gameplay in itself. There's no like, it's all intrigue. We're learning about characters. We've never actually done more than meet someone and get some some medicine for Roy. That's it. But that's okay. Like I said, it doesn't work against the game, but pacing wise, I'm going to call it out for now. But when we get to it, it does start like moving at a clip, like real fast. Like every 12 minutes, it's like story beat. Like we'll get to it.
Yeah, I feel like the first half. It felt like the first half because of the way that I played it. Basically because I did all my recruiting at the front end. But yeah, I also felt once you get to that certain point of kind of grinding, just like in another game I can think of that came out recently. You'll know the one probably. In any case, once you got to that certain milestone of the game, it really just started zooming towards the end, and I think that it was worth it. It was worth the first half of the game for me.
Cool. So then we'll get there. But I think that wraps up an episode of Metal Gear Monday's Revengeance Portable Ops Edition. Wherever you guys are listening to this, please rate and review. That would be fantastic as far as the algorithm is concerned. You can find merch at bit.ly/MGM store. You can reach out to us at metalgearsmonday@gmail.com. And when you can, if you can, we always give a giant shout out. We are absolutely in awe and gratitude towards our patrons and Patreon. So if you are interested to chime in again, this year we have definitely just tried to sort of double down as much as we are interacting with our patron group, because they were like the lifeblood of a rough year of last year and last season in general. So Patreon at Metal Gear Mondays would be fantastic to help with that. Otherwise, Chris, where can people find you on the interwebs?
I guess you can find me at metalgearmondays.com in the bio section.
Love it. The intrigue. What about you, Tori?
My home on the Timmy is mostly the Discord. You can find me on the Discord at Young Neil. It's YNGNEIL. You can also find me mostly retweeting Metal Gear Monday stuff on Twitter. Mostly sharing Metal Gear Mondays posts on Facebook. And Metal Gear Mondays plus pet photos on Instagram.
There you
All of
go.
that is YNGNEIL.
I love
Hell
it.
yeah.
And I'm at Warren Minix at all the nonsense. Again, I'm the old guy, so I don't use them as much as I probably should. But if you're into gamer tags, Untaggable Gamer is where I am. And outside of that, I think episode 1 of season 2, the Portable Ops rendition of Metal Gear Monday's Revengeance, I think it's time to let it rip, Jack.